Hey guys, Macca here from Melee.co, and last night I ran my first ever paid tournament, which was actually quite successful, and I was surprised how many people turned out. But with running any first tournament, there's going to be a lot of learnings that you take away. And so I wanted to share those learnings with you guys in the hope that if you're going to run your own Melee tournament, then you can learn from these things and you can avoid some of the mistakes that I made. So I've got a list of 12 things that I took away that I learned from running this tournament that I will try and improve for next time. So the first learning was to respect the good players. So I was running a tournament. The plan was to have best of 3 up until the finals. So winners finals, losers finals, and grand finals, where it would be best of 5. However, a lot of the good players wanted to play more best of 5s. Now, I wanted to keep to a time schedule for a reason, because I wanted to finish at 9:30 and do that consistently, so people who are coming from Brisbane, which is an hour away, feel like they could come, finish at 9:30 and get home at a respectable hour. And so I kind of had that in mind, but then good players wanted to play best of 5s because obviously it's more game time for them. It's probably more fair to do best of 5s than best of 3s because there's just, I guess, less variance there. It's more accurate result. And so there was a bit of, I guess, the good players were overriding me in some circumstances. It worked out pretty well, actually, for the winners semis, which was only 2 extra matches. They played best of 5s. And then for everything else was best of 3s as planned. And so something that I took away from the event was to respect the good players, because they are going to potentially override you in certain circumstances. Because me being a newer player, having only played for a year, some of these guys have been playing for 10 years plus. The good players are going to know how good tournaments are run, and you want the good players to come to your tournament. You want the good players to be happy at your tournament. So respect them, get feedback from them, create a win-win situation where they're happy, but you can still run your tournament and stick to time schedule. So I feel like we kind of met that balance where we got the winners semis was best of 5s, and then losers up until losers finals was best of 5. And we were kind of playing around with it based on time schedule. If it was running a bit, excuse me, if it was running a bit faster and was looking like it was going to finish early, then some of those losers games I probably would have moved to best of 5. Now, if you're running a massive event, you probably can't have this play. But yeah, so that was the hardest thing, I think, at the event, but also the biggest takeaway is work with and respect the good players that are there so that everyone is happy and everyone gets a good outcome. The second thing that I learned was to give yourself more time than you need to set up. I got there, how early did I get there? I got there 45 minutes before the bracket was meant to start, which I thought was more than enough time to set up, but I needed to set up multiple setups. I needed to set up a stream and get that organized. I also needed to set up the bracket in terms of it through challenge.com, etc. So everything was kind of going on track. It was 10 minutes before the event, and then my computer where I was going to be running the bracket decided to freeze up on me, and so I had to restart the computer. And so it ended up taking regos when the bracket was meant to start, and we started probably 5 to 10 minutes late. And so give yourself more time than you need to set up. I could have given myself an extra 15 minutes or even extra half an hour just so everything was completely set up. Or if I was only going to have 45 minutes, I should have set up the challenge beforehand, just got it set up so that I had the window open where I just need to enter players' details. That would have saved me, 5 or 10 minutes of going through that. So give yourself a little bit more time than you need just in case something goes wrong. And that brings me to learning number 3 is to build in redundancy. And this was something that I had planned. So redundancy is a backup if something goes wrong. And so I had a computer that I was going to stream from, which is the one I'm filming on now, which is a big 27-inch iMac. I then had a PC that I was going to run the bracket on. I also brought with me, the PC was a laptop, so I also brought with me a MacBook as well, which could run the bracket if the PC ended up failing for some reason. And I also brought the capture card required so I could stream off the PC if I needed to. So basically, if any one of the 3 computers ended up breaking, then I had something built in to do that. So it would have taken a lot for us not to be able to run the bracket or not to be able to stream. And worst case scenario, I had my phone to run the bracket off as well. And so I could have done that. So built in redundancy because I did have issues with the PC computer and it ended up working out fine. But if something can go wrong, it probably will go wrong. And so I have a backup for that. Learning number 4 was to monitor your stream and bracket throughout the night, which can be difficult. You obviously need to play your own games. You want to talk to people. You want to play some friendlies here and there. But definitely it's worth monitoring your stream, monitoring the bracket, make sure everything's flowing. In regards to the stream, we had a camera freeze up every now and then. So I had to go in and fix that. What else? And then in terms of the bracket, sometimes you can have it run away from you in terms of, winners are so far ahead of losers that's going to take so long to catch up. So just try to monitor it and make sure that you're getting the right games happening so that both winners and losers are moving along as quickly as possible. And something that I learned from one of the good players was if you can, give people a break after they've just lost. So let's say they're in winners and they just lose. If there's the opportunity and they've come off a hard loss, give them a little break, get someone else to play first, and then bring them in afterwards. So don't get the wrong people to play at the wrong time. So monitor your bracket, know who's winning, know who's losing, so you can set up the best games so everyone has a great night. And so it's worth monitoring because, it can get away from you. Tip number 5 or learning number 5 was to work out your stream buffering requirements. So one of the things that we had issues with on the night is that there was a delay between the video that was coming through the TV, so the Melee, the actual game, and the sound that was coming from that. And I have no idea how that delay was happening because it was through the same capture card, like the sound and the video were coming through the same capture card. But it's worth, really getting into OBS or whatever program you're using, doing recordings and just work out your delays. So I worked out that the sound was actually, what was it? It was 2/3 of a second before the video feed that was coming through. And then, because I was running multiple cameras, there may be a delay on one. So everything's got different delays if you're using cameras, if you're using microphones, if you've got a video stream happening as well. So really get down and work out what the delays are on there, and you can actually set buffers for things. So if you do it correctly, you can set everything has its own individual buffer or delay between when it's actually showing up on the stream. And so you should be able to get everything to line up perfectly. So that's something that I need to work on moving forward. Learning number 6 is you have to work hard to stick to time. And this comes back to working with respecting the good players and things like that. But as well, if you're running a stream, then it's natural that people want to appear on the stream. They want to play on the stream. They want their games to be recorded. And so sometimes if that's people are waiting in order to get on the stream, it's going to push your event out because a game could be happening, but it's not because they're waiting for the stream. And this only happened in one circumstance for me. 2 good players wanted to play on stream, and truthfully, I would have loved to have streamed it and loved to have captured it because these are 2 guys that go pretty even with each other, but I had to force them basically onto another TV, and they, wanted to wait. I actually had to threaten to DQ them or to DQ one of the guys if they didn't just go ahead and play. But I could see that if they're going to wait for the stream, we're definitely going to go over the time, and I wanted to stick to time. So you're going to have to work hard to stick to time. It's not going to be easy, but again, you need to respect your good players and find a happy balance for everyone. And this brings me to learning number 7, something that would have solved this problem. I wouldn't have had to threaten a DQ. We wouldn't have even had an argument, was potentially have multiple recording setups. So I've got a few computers. I've got 2 capture cards. I could potentially be running a stream, and I could have a separate setup that is going to record games separately. So it's not going to show up on stream, but they'll be recorded so we can upload them to YouTube after the event. And so if we had that, those 2 players I know would have been happy. The game would have been recorded for analysis afterwards. And so that's more important to our community, is having them recorded versus streaming. So potentially multiple setup recordings would be ideal. So that's something I'm definitely going to look at for next event. And as well, all the good players got on the stream. The only game that wasn't really good players was one of the games that I was in, and I just used, TO privileges to get on the stream and to get recorded. So a lot of the newer players who could really improve by analyzing their results, who probably watch their episode, like watch their games, they didn't get to go on stream, they didn't get to record. So having multiple setups would be ideal for those newer players, and just so everyone can get involved, everyone can get a recording of themselves if they want it. Learning number 8 is learn to delegate, and this is something that I need to get better at. When I don't know what I'm doing, because it was my first event and not sure how things run, I always want to do everything myself. And so once I know how something runs, I'm happy to delegate it out because it's easier to just monitor it or to help the person if they need help. I had another guy who was TOing with me, and I didn't really delegate anything to him. So if you're listening, Tane, sorry about that. But yeah, so learn to delegate certain tasks, and say, so like he could have easily run the bracket and monitored that, or run the stream. He can't do everything, so you need to learn to delegate some things. And so that's something that I need to keep in mind for next time. Learning number 9 is that Rego right before the event worked really well. This is something that I decided to do. I went to a New Zealand tournament about a month ago now, and they did pre-registration. So you would actually go online and you could register your details online. And that was something that I decided not to do. I thought my event was going to be smaller, 12 to 20 people or something like that. I decided to do registration just before the event, but it actually worked out really well. I did it like 5 to 10 minutes before the event, but what it meant was that everyone was there, because there was a few people that arrived, but then they went and got dinner. They came back 10 minutes before the bracket was meant to start. So everyone was there 10 minutes before the bracket was meant to start. I was able to collect money. As I got the money off people, I just entered their names straight into the system. And so I knew that everyone I entered had paid, and it was just super easy to keep track of it. I didn't have to sit there for an hour chasing people up, etc., etc. So Rego right before the event worked well, and I'll probably do that again. Learning number 10 is to bring spare notes for people who want to pay with coins. So this is, money, not like handwritten notes or something like that. 4 people paid me with silver coins. Like, it's a $5 entry, right? People paid me with 20-cent coins, 50-cent coins. So I had this massive wad of coins. And when I'm at the end of the night dishing out winnings to someone, I don't want to count coins with them. And so I was lucky enough that the games shop that we play at, I was able to give them the coins, and they gave me a note in exchange, like a $20 note for all of those coins. But what I would do in future is I would bring extra notes myself. So I would have like a wad of maybe $50 or something like that, depending on the size of your event. I would have it as notes. And if people paid me with coins, I would basically put the coins into my own wallet and then take $5 out of my own wallet as a note and put it into the pot. And so it's just so much easier to keep track of the pot if you've got all notes instead of coins. And so bring spare notes for people who bring coins. I actually didn't think anyone would bring coins, but apparently people are happy to pay with silver coins. And so something you need to be prepared for. Second last learning number 11, is to get really good at your sound levels. There's a reason that people use headset mics. I use this mic here, which is just a Blue Yeti. It's quite a good mic. I wanted to have 2 commentators, so in order to do that, you've got to sit a bit far back from the mic like I am now, but I just did not anticipate how much room noise would be picked up. Now, this mic's designed that it only collects what is pointing forward, but there was a whole Street Fighter crew behind us, so it was picking up all of that. The room obviously had no sound insulation or anything like that, so the sound was just bouncing around the room. And so in terms of commentary, there was just so much room noise that I would definitely want to go with headset mics next time if I can afford to buy them. That's something that I'll look into. I'm not sure how expensive they are. So there's a reason for that, but learning number 11 is to get really good at your sound levels, because when I watch back the recordings, when sometimes the game is just too loud and you can't hear what the commentators are saying. And so, I'd want to play around more with the sound, probably on the night, like before the event, yes, but I'm in a quiet room here. So on the night, play around with your sound levels, get it good so that people can be heard, commentators can be heard, that you can actually hear the game going on, but the game's not too loud, so you can't hear the commentators. So yeah, there's something to work on for next time. And then last learning number 12, was that interviews with players are a fun idea. So one of the things that I did after the event was I interviewed the guy who came second. And I know one of my favorite things to watch after events is the interviews. So we just finished Pound 6 in 2016. So Hungry Box won, so there was an interview with him. Hacks Money was there, so they did an interview with him, and they did an interview with Mango as well. And I absolutely love watching those interviews. So if you can do it, and if people are happy to do it, doing interviews with players is a great idea. I love interviewing people. It's what I do for my job. And so I was happy to do that. I interviewed one player, but again, the sound levels weren't awesome. So don't know if that interview is even going to be worth publishing, because the sound levels were just so bad and so off. And I'm quite good at projecting my voice. I know how to do it, but he had a quieter voice and maybe wasn't projecting as much. And so you could hear me, but you couldn't really hear what he was saying. And so again, like, that's working on your sound levels. But yeah, interviews are a great idea. If you can get 2 headsets, that would be the best for interviews. That would be so good. So there are my 12 learnings from running my first Melee event. I hope that this has helped you. So the first learning was to respect the good players and to work with them to create a great event that runs on time. Learning number 2 was to give yourself more time than you need to set up. Learning number 3 was to build in redundancy and have backup plans if things go wrong. Learning number 4 was to monitor your stream and bracket. Make sure your stream's working. Make sure that the bracket is flowing well throughout the night. Learning number 5 is to work out your stream buffering requirements so you don't have the issues I have where the sound is out of sync with the video. Learning number 6 is you have to work hard to stick to time. It's not just going to happen. So you need to make sure that it sticks to time, and that's something that's important to you. Learning number 7 is that multiple recording setups would be ideal, so that all the players who want to get recorded can, and the newer players can get some recordings done as well. Learning number 8 is to learn to delegate certain jobs out to people. That'll help a great deal. Learning number 9 is that Rego right before the event worked really well for me. I had 23 entrants, so if you got a larger event, it may not work so well, but it worked great for me. Learning number 10 is to bring spare notes for people who bring coins, specifically silver coins. So bring some larger monetary value notes to replace those. Learning number 11 is to get really good at your sound levels, so that it just sounds good. And then learning number 12 is that interviewing players after the event is often a fun idea, or interviewing players between sets could be a good idea as well. So I hope that this has been helpful. This is all of my learnings from running my first Melee tournament. I expected 12 as a minimum, 20 as a maximum. We got 23 people that went. Basically, all the best players, bar probably one in Queensland, were there. And so we had a great turnout in terms of good players. We had a great overall number of people that came to the event. So I was really happy with it. It went really well. And I wish you the best in your event. And until next time, keep calm and play Melee.